Welcome back to the tavern. After another long part of our trip, which has, however, been full of amazing insights and that has given some really positive results, it is time for us to head back to the tavern, to rest a little bit, and to stock up on food, drinks, and energy so that take on the next part of our trip with the best possible chance of success. So this series is an opportunity for me to just, stop for a moment, take a little bit of rest, and talk with you more freely and more informally, either answering some of your questions or talking about, giving my perspective on certain topics that have captured my attention recently. So I have my peach tea, I have my peanuts. Thank God I'm not allergic because I love these, they are amazing. And so, what did I want to talk with you about today? Here, almost as if you are on the other side of the table, we're just having a friendly chat, sharing a meal. So, what do I want to talk about today? Today, I want to talk about acceptance. I'm not talking about accepting other people. I'm not talking about accepting external circumstances, what happens to us. I'm talking about accepting ourselves. Should we do it? Should we not do it? What's going on with that? So this is my perspective on this. Now, in order to make sure that we all start from the same footing, that we all speak the same language, we need to set straight the definitions. So whenever I talk about something, I always like to start from the definitions because, as I said, if we are not starting from the same definition, it's almost as if we are speaking a different language. It's going to become very difficult to understand one another. And even if we have the same thoughts and the same conclusions, if we have different definitions, we might not be able to understand each other. So I thought, let's start from the definitions and let's make sure that we all start from the same point so that we can understand each other perfectly. So I've taken this description, I've written it down from the online Cambridge Dictionary, so a reputable, reliable source when it comes to the English language. So the definition of to accept, taken from the Cambridge Online Dictionary, is to consider something as satisfactory. So what does it mean? Well, let's just take a simple example, okay? Imagine that you're asked to sign a contract, okay? When you sign a contract, you are agreeing to everything that is written in the contract, that is okay for you, it is satisfactory for you, okay? So you cannot just sign the contract and then come back and be like, well, you know what? I signed the contract, but there is this part that I don't like, there is this part that I don't like, there is this part that I don't like. Please change them. No, you signed the contract, you accepted everything that's written in there, you cannot come back. These parts, even though you don't like them, you have to accept them. You have to tell them, you have to complain beforehand, not after you sign the contract. Now, how can we transpose this example to accepting ourselves? Well, in that case, this contract becomes a representation of us. So this contract represents me at this specific point in time, and it contains every single detail about me right now, at this specific point in time. If I sign it, so if I accept myself, I am saying whatever is written in this contract is fine for me. So in whichever way I am right now, I am perfectly fine with it. I have zero complaints. Therefore, I'm going to stay like that and not change anything. Now, what's so bad about it? I mean, is it something bad? Is it something that we should never do? Not really. I mean, there are some scenarios in which that is definitely, something that is perfectly acceptable. I think that reaching a point where we can accept ourselves should be the end point of each one of our, journeys of personal development. And, that doesn't necessarily have to happen, before we exhale our last breath. But I could, get to 70 years old and be like, okay, I've come to this point. There is nothing that I really want to change about myself. So you know what? I'm going to accept myself. I'm not going to change anything from now on, whether I live 5 minutes or 30 years. I'm going to maintain what I have and enjoy the fruits of my hard, personal growth, of my hard labor of, personal growth. So that is definitely something that we should aim towards. That is definitely a very positive aim to have. But when you are at the beginning of your journey, or when you are in the, in the middle of your journey, you definitely should not accept yourself, because when you accept yourself, you accept to stay as you were at that point in time. you are cutting off any possibility of improvement, and that is definitely something that, if you haven't reached the end of your journey, that is definitely something that you want to do. So I don't think it's a good strategy. And especially when I see some content online which, says stuff along the lines of, happiness comes from accepting ourselves, or you have to accept yourself for who you are, or you're perfect just the way you are. You just need to accept it, and you need to realize that. I don't think that is good advice at all, because, in order to accept yourself, you need to be satisfied with who you are. If you are not satisfied with who you are, you cannot accept yourself. I mean, it's a pretty clear contradiction. So if you're not happy about yourself and you listen to this kind of comments, it's almost as if they're telling you, well, if you're not able to accept yourself for whatever reason, then you are flawed. You're not good. You're doing something wrong. And I don't think that's good. That's a good thing at all. I mean, if you are not satisfied about who you are, about what you are, about every single detail of you, then that means there is room for growth. There is something that you can change to improve yourself. And so accepting yourself would be exactly counterproductive. And so I don't think that is good advice at all. And especially when you are not happy about what you are, as a totality, as a human being in its entirety, then you should not accept yourself. You should refrain from doing that. And now some of you might think, wait a second, but, you say all of these nice things, Marty Pants. You should not accept yourself. Okay, cool. I should not accept myself. What should I do instead? Well, what I propose to you is to, instead of accepting yourself, you do something that is relatively similar, but also very different. You should, instead of accepting yourself, you should take stock of yourself. And you might think it's just, a matter of semantics, but it is not. Words have a meaning, have a very precise meaning. And so using words improperly, saying one thing when it's actually meaning something else, it's not correct. It is not, effective for you. So what is the difference between accepting yourself and taking stock of yourself? Well, let's just take this contract again, okay? Let's imagine this is my contract that represents me right now. If I accept myself, I say, okay, I've read this contract. Everything that is in this contract is fine for me. I am going to sign it. And whatever is written in there is going to stay true for the rest of my life. However I was described in here, I'm going to stay as I was there for the rest of my life. When I take stock of myself instead, what do? I read the contract very carefully, and for every single line that is written there, I'm going to think about whether I'm okay with it or I'm not, whether I want to change it or not, or whether I can change it or not, okay? So imagine, for example, that, this is my contract, okay? It's written, okay, Simone, 5'10", loves chess, mediocre toughness, okay? Well, and then, a bunch of other things below. Now, what do? Okay, well, I'm going to start checking all of the items in that contract one by one, and some areas, aspects of myself, no matter how much I want to change them, or no matter how much I try to change them, or no matter how much I wish to change them, I cannot. I'm 5'10". I cannot magically become 6'5". No, I'm 5'10". I cannot change that. And so, the only thing I can do is, make do with it and be like, yeah, sure, okay, I'm gonna be fine with it. And I cannot change it, so, I better be fine with it and move on. Then there are some things that I could potentially change, but that I don't want to change, that I'm fine the way they are. For example, chess player, chess lover. Well, I could stop playing chess. Sure, I could change that, but why should I? I don't want to do that at all. So first thing first, I love chess. Chess is an activity, is a hobby that brings me great satisfaction, great mental stimulation, and great fun. Plus, if you remember episodes 5 and 6 of Diary of a Journeyman, I have been using chess, taking advantage of all of the positive qualities of chess to learn some new abilities or to strengthen some of my current abilities in order to become a better person. So not only the hobby of chess has a fun component, but there is also an educational, growth-related component. So, it's an activity that is very, very powerful and very, very useful to me. I would be a fool to want it to, take that away. So could I change that? Yes. Do I want to change that? Absolutely not. Then there's going to be things that I could change, that I want to change indeed. So mediocre toughness. If you remember in episode 4 of Diary of a Journeyman, I talked exactly about that. And I decided that I wasn't being tough enough and that I needed to change that I needed to improve. And so through certain activities like chess, for example, I've been working to improve my toughness. So I could change that? Yes. Do I want to change that? Absolutely. And so I can keep going, down the list and figuring out everything that I want to change. And then I can start, working on it. And this contract here that at the beginning represented me at that starting point, it's going to continue to update dynamically because it's going to reflect every single instant how I am as a person. And so I'm going to keep changing the terms of that contract. I'm going to keep changing the terms of that contract. Whenever there is a term that I don't like, whenever there is something that I don't like about myself, I'm going to change that, I'm going to improve that. And so this contract, from becoming a final version that I just had to sign, then becomes a draft. And I'm going to keep creating more and more refined drafts until I get to a final version where I'm like, okay, everything that is written there, I am satisfied with. I can sign the contract. I can accept myself at that specific point in time, and then I can, enjoy the fruits of my hard labor on myself, and I can improve, and I can enjoy the improved version of myself that I have created for the rest of my life. I just have to maintain that. I don't have to change anything anymore. So from that point of view, I think that, taking stock of yourself instead of accepting yourself is much better because, one, there is no judgment involved. So sure, you need to figure out, do you want to change something? Do you like something of yourself? If not, how can you change that? But at the same time, there is no judgment involved. When you're accepting yourself, you're thinking, well, am I good enough? When you are taking stock of yourself, I'm just thinking, okay, what is it that I could improve? So there is no judgment involved in taking stock of yourself. And also, it allows you to improve yourself. Of course, generally when we're talking about contracts, you are stuck there. So, there are norms and regulations and laws that prevent you from just breaking contracts, just because you wish. There are certain regulations that, prevent you from doing so in most cases. But if you ever accept yourself for a while, and then at a certain point you realize, well, you know what, I want to change something in my life. Well, you can just start improving right from the get-go. It's not that accepting yourself is not something irreversible. But I think it's a good habit to never, get in the habit of accepting yourself blindly and instead, starting to take stock of yourself. So if you are at the point in your life where you are sort of a bit stuck and you are like, I cannot accept myself, but I wish I could accept myself, try to do this, simple change. Try to take stock of yourself instead of accepting yourself and see what happens. And I think it's going to be something that is very useful. But again, this was just my perspective. So don't feel forced to change just because I said I think this change is beneficial. Think about it yourself. And if you agree with me, then you're free to change, your approach. Now, if you decide to follow this approach and you decide to start working on yourself or certain areas of your life that you want to improve, well, for that, Neurographica can be a great tool. And if you've never heard of this technique before and you want to know what it's all about, in my channel, I have a playlist for the main series of this channel, which is called Diary of a Journeyman. In that series, I apply Neurographica to my own life, to the problems that I face in my everyday life. And I figure out exactly how to act in order to tackle them. And so I share with you all of the results that I obtain. So you can understand right from the get-go what kind of benefits you can obtain. And when you realize that, you like Neurographica and you wish to learn it, you can come to me because I'm a Neurographica instructor. You can join one of my courses and I'll teach you how to use this technique to change your life for the better. So, definitely, I think Neurographica is a great technique. So if you're interested, definitely get in touch with me and so that, you can start moving your first steps into this world. I think this was all I had to talk about acceptance for tonight. So I'm gonna finish my tea, I'm gonna finish my peanuts, and then I'm gonna head to bed. And I suggest you do the same because the next step of our journey is approaching very rapidly, and we all need to have our full tank of energy before we start the next step of our journey. So I'm gonna go to bed. I suggest you do the same, and I'll see you next time for Diary of a Journeyman. It's coming back really soon. So from me, from the tea and from the peanuts, thank you for watching, and I'll see you around. Oh, you're still here. I'm very happy to see that. If you want, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, or you can open this playlist that contain all of the episodes of this series, or you can watch this video. I'm sure you're gonna like that. The choice is yours. Have fun, and I'll see you in the next video.